call. Today is July 30th, 2011. What you're looking at right now is the Storm Prediction Center outlook out of Norman, Oklahoma, calling for an isolated to scattered risk of severe thunderstorms today over portions of the northern plains today up into portions of the Great Lakes today. You can see there is a risk today over portions of, sorry about the mouth strong. There is severe risk over portions of North Dakota, portions of South Dakota, and in portions of central, pretty much all of Minnesota, into portions of western parts of Wisconsin and southwestern portions of lower Michigan. The main threats today will be damaging winds, large hail, and the threat for an isolated tornado. Here's a look at the National Hurricane Center map right now. You can see the National Hurricane Center map is actually pretty active for this time of the year. We're getting into that period where it's going to start getting a little bit more active out there. You can see there's not one, but not two, but three systems that the National Hurricane Center is monitoring in this morning. Farther off to the west, you can see there's the remnant low of what was Tropical Storm Don, which really wasn't that much of a storm, which is now just a remnant low, moving to portions of the Texas-Mexico border with some scattered showers. There is a second disturbance over portions of the Caribbean that now has a 0% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone, which is right now just bringing some squally weather over portions of Honduras and Nicaragua. And then last but not least, there is the tropical wave coming off the coast of Africa, which is now way off the coast of Africa, nearing the Leeward Islands, which now has a 70% chance of developing. This one has the best chance so far out of the entire Atlantic, and this is also labeled Invest 91L, obviously named by the National Hurricane Center. They'll continue to watch this, and actually hurricane hunters may investigate this on Sunday. Back into the Eastern Pacific, you can see it's moderately active right around this area. There's two regions they're watching, both have given a 10% chance. One just off the southwestern coast of Mexico, and then there's also a weak disturbance over portions of pretty much the far western coast of Mexico, way out into the Eastern Pacific. There's a system they're watching, but the chance with that one developing is very slim, as the system is already moving into colder waters and environmental conditions over there are not that conducive. But the one on the farther east, we're continuing to watch. Models are actually really beginning to latch onto this one, developing into a tropical cyclone hugging up against the Mexican coastline as it moves off to the west and west-northwest. But right now, it doesn't look like it's probably going to be a significant threat to Mexico landfall-wise, but it may be a threat, obviously, heavier rainfall-wise and potentially for some rip currents and higher waves. Here's a look right now at the visible satellite loop of Invest 91L. You can see obviously the reflection of the sun has risen in the distance. You can see it's actually getting better organized by every frame. You see there already is a mid-level spin with it. Right around this region is probably where the best chance of actual center circulation being is right around this region. You can see it's moving up to the west-northwest right now. You can see there obviously still is some shear that's trying to affect it, but you can see it's beginning to show some banding features, which is in other words beginning to show some outflow with it. So the storm is beginning to ventilate, beginning to breathe a lot better, obviously because there's a mid to upper air ridge right on top of the storm system, and as long as that stays in place, the system's going to have enough room to breathe and begin to fan out with the outflow and give it a little bit more time, a little bit more breathing room, and trying to get rid of that shear and dry air that's trying to fan into the system. Here's a look right now at that shear map. You can see there obviously is an upper air ridge right around the system, right around this region. And a mid to upper air ridge has developed over the system, which is once again giving it that window for some opportunity for some possible tropical cyclone development. But you see in the rest of the Atlantic, there is a good amount of shear around the southeast coastline. Obviously, with I believe this is an upper air, this ridge of high pressure with the upper air ridge over here that's producing that extreme heat over here is causing some wind shear to become pretty violent and aggressive over portions of the Bahamas into portions of the southeast coastline. Here's a look right now at the latest shear. You can see once again there's that area of low pressure right around this area. There's decreasing knot shear about 5 to 10 knots, but there is a little bit of shear and a little bit of dry air ahead of the storm system that it's moving into. But once again, that upper air ridge over place, that mid to upper air ridge over it, is causing the fanning and the outflow to occur, trying to fan out some of this dry air and shear that's trying to antagonize it. Once again, there's Tropical Storm Don over there in portions of now inland over portions of Texas and Mexico. National Hurricane Center is done issuing advisories on that one, as that one has obviously became a remnant low. And then down here, right around Panama, there's the third system that the National Hurricane Center is monitoring. Not really any significant chance of development. Obviously, it's too close to land, and there's actually just a broad area of low pressure. And then there's that fourth one right there that the models begin to pick up on. That one actually is in a pretty favorable environment right now, so we'll continue to watch that one. Now back to Invest 91L. Here's a look at the Canadian model on it. The Canadian model has been, for the past few days, obviously it's one of the most aggressive models known, but it's actually been doing one of the best jobs of actually picking this. This actually was the first model that actually was developing this one a couple of days ago. It's developing over a portion of the northern Leeward Islands, over a portion of Puerto Rico and Hispaniola, may bring them some rain. And then it gets picked up by that big subtropical ridge of high pressure that's been in the northern Atlantic all season. It's picking up the ridge and it's beginning to ride along that ridge and tilt off to the north, and then obviously it's going to get turned out to the northeast, but we just don't know when that's going to occur yet. Also, the Canadian is also developing that area of low pressure in the eastern Pacific. But like I said, once again, Invest 91L is actually right now attached to the ITCZ, I believe the Intertropical Convergence Zone. That's another term for it. It's connected to it right now, but it's beginning to break away from it. And as it breaks away from it, it's going to be able to gather its own area of low pressure at the surface and give it that spin it needs for it to potentially develop. Here's a look at the GFS on it. GFS is also in pretty good agreement with the Canadian, almost in the same position. Both the Atlantic and the East Pacific storm of developing where they're going to develop, when and where. Once again, it also has it being picked up by the subtropical ridge, but it's a little bit farther off to the west of where it could develop. So this one, the GFS, as it has it potentially threatening the island of Bermuda with potentially a tropical storm, maybe even a weak hurricane. It's too early to tell for intensity, but some of the models do want to develop this potentially as a hurricane as it leaves the Leeward Islands. And I believe that actually could occur. Here's a look at the forecast intensity models. You can see, once again, this is in kilometers. You can see that all the models are in agreement of this potentially developing into something in the next 12 to 24 hours as a tropical depression. Now, we can't really say if this is going to occur or not, how strong these get. You can see some of the outlier models want to develop this over a Category 1 to Category 2 hurricane. We can't even say that now. These models are not doing great at all. They're probably way too aggressive. It's because, one, the computer models they're not having a good agreement on a storm that's just labeled as an invest. It has to be labeled as a tropical cyclone for them to actually get a good reading on it. And plus, there's no sufficient data that they need right now. They need more data in order to get a better reading on the models. But like I said, on Sunday, the National Hurricane Center is going to send two planes, one from Tampa, which is the NOAA Hurricane Hunters, and then the regular Hurricane Hunters that are coming in from Mobile, Biloxi, Mississippi, excuse me. Both of them are going to fly into it Sunday and drop some information into the system, and that will help feed into the models, give them a little bit more information, and then we'll be sure to get more of an accurate reading on the forecast intensity and the potential forecast track. But safely speaking, these models probably are having a good idea of this potentially strengthening into potentially a tropical cyclone during the next 12 to 24 hours. That's what we're just going to say right now. And it's possible we could have Emily on our hands in the next several days. But once again, it's too early to tell if this will even become a hurricane or not, but it does have the potential. Here's a look at the latest models. This is the latest models that just came in a few minutes ago. Uh, Latest path are still in very good agreement of it affecting the northern portions of the Leeward Islands up into portions of Puerto Rico, and bring some squally weather to portions of Hispaniola, which obviously does not need any more rainfall. But you see some of the outliers carry into Bermuda, but they're all on a considerable path, beginning to turn this to a northwest, west-northwest, and then potentially off appears to be a slight jog off to maybe to the north-northwest. But it's just a sign of when. We don't know when yet. Once again, could it get picked up before? Is there a chance it could go over the Leeward Islands? Yes. Could it miss the Leeward Islands? That's still a possibility. If it stays weak, it'll go that southern track and it'll hug against the central portion of the Leeward Islands, and then go into the Western Caribbean. And then it possibly could pose a threat to portions of potentially the Gulf of Mexico, but that's way off. But right now, the consensus are and have been for the past few days of this system potentially going over the Leeward Islands to Puerto Rico and then moving out to the western west into portions of the southeast of Bahamas. So Bahamas and portion of the Leeward Islands and portion of Puerto Rico and Hispaniola, and even portion of Cuba need to keep a close eye on this system. The system has the potential to become a pretty strong tropical storm, even a weak hurricane around this time frame. But once again, the models aren't having a good read on this, as it still is labeled as Invest 91L. When it develops, then we'll obviously have a better reading on it, and then we can potentially tell the areas that are potentially in the threat of this system. So once again, here's another look at Invest 91L. Once again, a nice, pretty good mid-level cyclonic spin toward it. But once again, we're going to continue to keep an eye on it. Hurricane Hunters once again forecast to investigate this system on Sunday to see if this system has a closed low or not. So once again, that's it. Take care, everyone.